who's meta dominant, gives people an extra life. We've got Super Vegeta, who can tank any character in the game. We need these two characters to get countered. Alright, so Legends just released some new information about Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Let's check out his trailer real quick.
At long last, allow me to show you the power of Super Saiyan 4. At long last, I have ascended. Be gone! Time to finish him! Final! I refuse to perish until I've erased you from existence!
Alright, that's pretty interesting here. He's got a pretty decent art for his Ultra art. I really do like this part where the Great Ape goes golden. I think this effect here is like really good looking. Like that just morph into yellow. It just looks amazing. And then from this trailer, we can tell, first of all, his Ultra intro is amazing. Here with the starting off with the golden Great Ape into Vegeta, that looks really good. And then he's got a blast cover change over there. And then he's got a ranged blue card. And here is his little gimmick here, the switch attack. So this is a new little gimmick that he's got. And there goes his ultimate. Alright. So his animations are pretty decent. I think this is a pretty interesting new ability to bring to the game. Let's check out his abilities here. So, new switch attack ability. Switch this character in during an ally's strike or blast arts combo to activate a special animation and deal big damage. It even goes type neutral. Okay. Set your sights on an enemy and go for the KO. Your opponent cannot cover change when a switch attack activates. It gives you like a no switching kind of effect. Finish off enemies with low health. Cool. The unique gauge starts as a time type, okay, then it switches to a release type when it fills up. And then each time it does, you'll gain another use of switch attack. Okay, that's interesting. And then high attack power. While unique gauge is release type, while the unique gauge is release type, activating a special move or ultimate arts will boost that arts' damage by 70%. Plus, using a card will restore ki, boost your damage, and draw you another card. Harness the power of the Great Ape to reach Super Saiyan 4 and overwhelm your opponents. Okay, that's a pretty interesting little summary there as to what they were going for with this character. Perfect. There are so many yellows in the game who we just need to be crushed. Everyone's complaining about Ultra Frieza, but the yellow issue is way more like super. Like if we look at all the really strong yellow, meta dominant yellow characters here, there are quite a few. Let's take a look over here. So we've got Ultra Namek Goku, who's meta dominant, gives people an extra life. We've got Super Vegeta, who can tank any character in the game. We need these two characters to get countered. Like, you think Frieza's an issue? Imagine going up against Frieza and these two units together. You're not dealing any damage to Vegeta. Frieza has an extra has 3 lives. Goku has 2 lives. This character has 3 lives. Like, this team is impossible to deal with, especially on the Namek Saga team where they use this Krillin guy. It's so difficult to deal with. They're just constantly switching before you can actually kill any of them. We really do need a red character to cripple Namek Goku before we get a strong purple to get rid of Frieza. So that's a pretty good color picking on their part. And then there's his Z ability focuses on GT and Saiyan. So this is like a pretty good indicator that he's not He's a solely GT based character. You're not meant to run this character on Vegeta Clan, which is a bit of a shame. Vegeta Clan could use another buff, but they opted not to. But most Vegeta Clan characters are Saiyans, so because they're all Vegeta, so this probably still can apply to most of them. And its ultra ability, yeah, this backs up what I said before. It's based on GT battle support member. So this guy's a GT unit. You're not using him on a GT team, and he's not in the leader slot. You're using him wrong. That's probably how this is gonna shake. All right, and then on strike he has a blast armor, and he gets 20% strike damage. So he stacks up strike damage when he uses strikes. Okay, and then on blast, he stacks up blast damage. This is pretty interesting. Is this meant to be... Wait, hold on. Boosts... Okay, let me read the yellow text here. Boost your blast damage on activation. Plus, Vegeta has a blast arts card that boosts damage inflicted when used in the low area. Interesting. Is this... Are they trying to make this character... You can build him both ways? You can build him both strike or blast? Either one? Is that how that's gonna... I said both, but either one. Because he stacks up the damage type according to what you're using. So if you use him on a blast-based team, he can stack up blast damage. And then he also has a blast that gives him damage inflicted. So this makes me feel like he's a range type, but you can also build him strike-based. This is just here in case you want to build him strike-based, which is pretty interesting. It would have been nice if they gave him a strike that boosts... strike arts card that boosts strike damage inflicted or something like that in the high area, but that's how it shakes. Special move damage. So when the gauge is release type, let me just quickly do that. When the gauge is release type, you'll get a total of 70% boost to special move damage. So this is a total boost of 70%, which is kind of a bit odd compared to this text here. Says it'll boost your damage by 70%. This isn't the first time I'm actually recording this. My other one had pretty bad audio. But when I read this again at the start of the video, I remember that you only get a total of 70. So this text here is a bit misleading. Maybe they could fix that. That's worded a bit weirdly. But yeah, back to the blue. It's a massive, which is fine. Unique age 10%, which is just like infinite. You can just keep charging with the blue, which is pretty interesting. You get special move damage 40%. You get crit rate, which is okay. I think crit rate of the buff is kind of meh without critical damage to go with it. And then if unique age is release type, he'll deal an extra 30% on his blue. So this is what they meant when they said 70%. Like it's 70% total, not a plus 70% boost like they said originally in the black character synopsis. And then he gives him a debuff to health restoration, which is pretty cool. And then green card, last special arts card to drop 2 cards and nullify cover changes. So he gets key, he fills up his unique by 15%, and then damage plus 30%, and then he casts debuffs, which is pretty decent as a green card here. And then on hit, drop to 2 cards if hand has 3 or fewer, and then nullify cover changes, and you can combo it into basically anything. So this is blast armor. This is a melee green. They didn't actually show us this in the actual trailer, which is pretty interesting. They usually do show this off in the trailer, but we'll just have to wait and see when the character comes out. And then his ultimate just gets all damage, crit rate, and then he nullifies endurance. And then if his gauge is release type, he'll get some extra damage, and he'll go type neutral. Interesting. There's a bit of type neutral in this guy's kit. The main ability, you'll force draw the ultimate, you'll gain some health, the Vegeta will get 30% in total, and then he'll give 20% to his allies, get some key, cancel debuffs, and then reduce enemy Dragon Balls by 3 is a really strong effect. That's a really powerful effect. This puts a real dent in your enemy having a rush. If your enemy has a rush and you just pop your main, they're not getting a rush for like a while. There's not many characters who actually debuff you by 3. I think there's only one character. I'll pull him up real quick. This character here, this purple Zenkai Vegeta. This character is the only character I believe who has this effect. And he only gains it when he dies. So the following effects occur when this character is defeated. He will reduce enemy Dragon Balls by 3. But this guy has to die to get this effect. This Vegeta could just pop his main and he's got it. And that's pretty interesting right there. That's a pretty interesting effect to have. Just you can just control this. You don't have to die for it to happen. So starter ability. Vegeta's sub counts on Switch are reduced by 2, and so you can quickly bring this character back out after returning to standby. So I think that's the main crux of this character, is that they want you to keep on switching out. Switch him in, switch him out, switch him in, switch him out. So damage, 300%. Damage guard, 210%. Kiri 70, he's got draw speed, and he's got -2 subcounts. And he's also got endurance. But I want to focus on this number over here. Because the dev team, I don't know what their thought process is here with how damage guard works. But let me just show you something. One of our most recent characters that they've had to release a kit for was this Zenkai cooler. This mid Zenkai cooler. I just want you to just look at the numbers. So post Zenkai cooler. Look at these numbers. Damage guard 110%. Damage guard 210%. What on earth? What made him think 110% is something you can give a character ever? They're giving this guy 100% more? Okay. Let's not even talk about Metal Cooler, whose maximum is like 185. So, I'm assuming his gauge isn't full, but even then, it's only 200-ish. This guy gets more damage. This guy gets more damage guard than Metal Cooler, a defense type, just a base. Okay. Okay. The new switch ability lets you switch with an ally, deal damage, and continue the combo. Cover changes can be performed during a switch attack, and you'll be able to defeat enemies in one go. And what this means is a finishing attack. It's not going to be like a Beast Gohan special beam cannon where you just instantly kill. I could be wrong. It could be something like that, but I doubt it's going to be that strong. When allies enter the battlefield, the unique gauge will charge, and Vegeta will get a boost for the next damage. Will get boost to damage for the next arts. So this applies to any arts, meaning a blue, an ultimate. This can apply to both of those too. Up to 100%. So on battlefield entry, he'll draw a card, he'll get some health, and get some ki. Pretty decent effects there. He gets cover null on battlefield entry, which is pretty okay. This is a bit better on RC use, because then you can control when this procs. Because if you could switch in defensively, and then this just becomes wasted. But he does have other ways to get cover null, so it's not too bad. He'll go type neutral again. I think this is like number 2 or number 3 where he goes type neutral, and he'll destroy an enemy card. And then there's a defeat a battle member effect. I'm just gonna skip this. You don't play for this at all. You play around this a lot. You don't cut to destroy an enemy card. Okay. Also, there's a defeat a battle member one time. His rate will go up. You don't really play around this, like activating this, because this guy's red, right? This Vegeta's red. So if you're gonna use this Vegeta character here, this Vegeta, if you're gonna use him on a team with other characters, you're probably gonna use him alongside the previous Frieza Saga Ultras. So there's really no need for you to sack. Like, which one of them are you gonna sack off so this guy can get extra charge rate? That's a pretty effect, but we move. On battlefield entry, he'll get unique gauge plus 5%, and then he'll get a boost to his arts damage. I think how you're supposed to stack this is that you're supposed, and let me read further so that I can explain how I think this is gonna work. So when hit by enemy arts, his unique gauge gets plus 10%. He'll heal -1 to sub counts, and then you'll seal a slot one time. And this will reset every time he switches in, and then he stacks arts costs. Now this effect is the same as Beast Gohan. Let's see if I can find it through his like verbose kit. Um, let's see. Whenever hit, yeah, here it is. Plus 10 to all arts costs for 5 timer counts. Now this is actually pretty strong because it activates against all enemies. So if one character like is comboing and stacking up the arts costs, they can't just switch out and reset this. So this is pretty strong. This is a really good disrupt ability that a certain cooler should have gotten, but they're putting it on an ultra super offensive unit. Yeah, this is the new philosophy, huh? Okay, now this is what I meant when I mentioned that I think this is meant to synergize with this. The next activated arch damage. I believe this, what you're supposed to do is that you're supposed to swap in with this character defensively, and you're supposed to take hits to fill up his unique gauge, and then swap him out again, and then swap him back in, take more hits, swap him out again, swap him back in, take more hits, swap him out again, rinse and repeat. You see the pattern here. You're supposed to try and bring him out and in 5 times to build up that 100%, and then you'll by the time you come in, you'll have your release type gauge, and then you'll be able to boost your arts. So you'll get 100% boost here, plus the extra like that would be on top of this having 70% already activated. Or if you want to use the ultimate, this will also have 70% and it does supreme damage alongside the plus 100% arts damage. So that's kind of the mindset this character has here in terms of how he's gonna stack up and deal damage. So I think these two abilities here, they complement each other quite well, and I can see the cycle they're going for alongside the whole sub counts -1. He wants to switch out quickly, then swap out, swap out, then swap back in, swap out, and swap back in. That's also why he has his base -2 to his own sub counts. So you'll swap him out. He'll have 8 counts left, and he probably might have another way to switch back in quickly again, which is pretty good synergy in terms of how this character is supposed to move and roll. Okay, when on battlefield, an enemy activates a blue, an ultimate, or an awakened arts card, or rush, cancels buff effects. Huh. I wonder why a hyper offensive character just has this. Huh. I mean, it's because he has endurance, but still, they just like throw in extra stuff here for ultras. They really go above and beyond to make these characters good. Okay. On ally cover change, 5% health and then damage 20%. What does this mean exactly? Does this mean when an ally switches? When he switches in from another ally, he gets a 20% damage boost, and then his health will increase by 5%. I think that's what this means. And then on switch activation, on switch attack activation, deal major damage to the enemy, goes type neutral, cancels your debuffs, and then lowers your allies' sub counts. Then you can combo this into a strike, blast, or a special arts or a special move arts. I think this is like basically similar to like Frieza's active gauge, just it activates on switch. I think that's the kind of damage I'm expecting this to do, something similar to Frieza's active gauge. If not, maybe a little bit more. I'm not super sure how they want to scale that. But yeah, okay, that's interesting there. He has a lot of type neutral in his kit. This makes me feel like strong blue characters on the way, which is interesting. I don't understand why they'd release a strong blue character. Maybe to counter this character or provide a way to counter him, but I don't think he's that oppressive. We saw the cover change against blasts already in the trailer. So the unique gauge starts as a time type and then switches to a release type when it becomes full. And then when that happens, you'll gain a use of switch attack. Using cards while the unique gauge is release type will boost your damage and draw you a card, unleash incredible offensive power. So it starts as a time type and then goes into a release type. So it starts as a time type, starts with 40% charge, and will not charge whilst release type. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then when unique gauge becomes full as a time type, it'll switch to release type. It'll give him some health, nullify combo breaking actions. Is that not the same as this? Nullifies enemies' auto counters, evade actions, and special actions that activate when changing cover. Now, this may sound different, but let me pull up some footage of this real quick. Alright, so from here, we're going to see some footage. Here's Ultra Gogeta 4. You guys know how this guy's gauge works. If he gets hit, it'll fill up, and then it will counter any arts. So, let's just watch here. So here, Goresh fills up his gauge, so he should be countered. But no, Vegito comes in, and he just combos. Like, he's landing arts cards here, and he's not being countered yet. So this effect here, I think this is what this Vegeta has. I think this is just the modern wording for that. He'll combo you regardless of if you have a gauge to stop him. Which, I mean, if we look at the current landscape of the game, there's only one character who's semi-meta relevant who has a counter, which is Majin Vegeta. So he can get through Majin Vegeta's counter, which is just, yeah, Majin Vegeta's dead. First Cell came out, and then now this red Vegeta's coming out. This guy's dead. He has an auto counter, and he's somewhat used. He's like used. He's not competitive, but he's used. Gogeta's not competitive, but it'll also counter him. It'll counter this guy, but they're also not really. Yeah, they're not relevant characters who have auto counters. Most of these characters don't have auto counters. Even UI doesn't have one. He only has an evade one, which he can't nullify that. He only nullifies if it breaks up his combo. So there aren't actually any auto counter characters for this character to be afraid of. So maybe this is like we're gonna get a blue character who has a strong auto counter and is super oppressive. I don't know how that's gonna shake though, considering that Frieza exists, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not this is like a sign for a new character coming up. He protects his hands, sub counts -5, and then switch attacks available +1. Yeah, this is what I mean. He sub counts -5. Is this a T-mod effect or is this his own sub count? Because if this is his own sub count, well, I think how this is supposed to work is you're supposed to switch out, then switch back in, switch out, switch back in. Once you stack up that 100%, maybe this guy's gauge would now be full. Because like here, the charge rate says gradually while not defeated. That's about the same pacing as Ultra Hit, which is around like 40 something counts, I think. So this character will take like 40-ish counts. Like in 40 counts, you switch out 5 times. Swap out, swap back in with all of his sub count control. And then once you swap out, his gauge will probably become full on standby. And then his sub counts will just boop go down by 5. Then you can swap him in. Or you can swap him in defensively. Or rather, the other way you can use it is if you're comboing a character, then his gauge will fill up and then his sub counts will go down. And then now you can switch into him and now you can do the attack. I think that's how it's supposed to work. Which is, yeah, that synergizes pretty well with how this guy's gauge wants to work. Then as a release type on arts use, draw a card, key, vanishing gauge, and then damage. Now this alone looks broken, but then you realize, oh wait, the gauge discharges very slowly, but it discharges by 30% on strike or blast use. So this is only about three cards, unless they count that final 10% as one of these two. Then that could be about 4 cards. So he gets a full hand from this basically, and then his gauge resets. Okay, that's pretty fair. So yeah, and then when his unique gauge reaches 0, it'll switch to a time type. So this guy's pretty strong. I think his synergy works well. The whole swap out, swap back in, constantly recycling Vegeta in and out to build up his gauge rate, to build up his gauge percentages. And then once it's release type, you can just swap him back in quickly and then use the what you call it? What is it called here? It's called the switch attack. Yes, you can gain another charge of the switch attack. So yeah, I think this character is pretty strong. I think he's actually a really strong addition. Let me know what you think about this character and whether or not you think this guy is actually going to make an impact on the meta. I think he is. Yeah, leave your comments down below.